what makes cinema to me, I think ultimately it's something that for some reason stays with you, so that a few years later you could watch it again, or 10 years later you watch it again and it's different. In other words, there's more to learn about yourself or about life.
Martin Scorsese, the name itself is cinematic legend. For over 50 years, he's given us some of the most powerful and unforgettable films in history. And when you think of Scorsese, you almost immediately think of his legendary partnerships. There's Robert De Niro, the actor who helped him define a whole generation of filmmaking in masterpieces like Taxi Driver and Raging Bull. And of course, there's Leonardo DiCaprio, his modern muse for 21st century epics like The Aviator and The Wolf of Wall Street. These collaborations are the gold standard, built on trust, loyalty, and a shared artistic vision. But let's be real, the title of this video is pretty provocative. Does Martin Scorsese, the master filmmaker, truly hate anyone? The truth is a lot more complicated, and honestly, a lot more interesting than simple hatred. Scorsese is a genius, and working with a genius often means playing by a very specific, very demanding set of rules. He doesn't just direct a movie, he lives it, breathes it, and expects every single person on his set to do the same. His vision is absolute. Today, we're looking at 5 stories that pull back the curtain on Scorsese's intense process. These aren't really tales of personal hatred, but stories of professional clashes of what happens when an actor's style, ego, or interpretation runs up against one of the most uncompromising artistic visions in cinema history. These are the stories of 5 actors whose professional relationships with Scorsese were reportedly so strained. They never worked together again. Before De Niro and before DiCaprio, there was Harvey Keitel. You can't really understand Scorsese without starting here. Keitel was Scorsese's first true cinematic alter ego, the raw, street-level energy that helped the young director find his voice in films like Who's That?, Knocking at My Door, and The Incredible Mean Streets. In Mean Streets, Keitel's character, Charlie, was the film's anchor. He was so committed, he was instrumental in getting the movie made. They were a team. So, what went wrong? Well, nothing, really. Unlike other stories on this list, there was no big dramatic fight. Instead, it was more of a quiet, professional, drifting apart. The shift began around the time of Taxi Driver. Keitel gives a fantastic, creepy performance as the pimp sport, but let's face it, that film belongs to Robert De Niro. Scorsese had found a new muse, an actor with a different kind of internalized intensity that would define his next chapter. As Scorsese's films got bigger and grander, his vision aligned more and more with what De Niro could do. There was simply less room for Keitel in that new dynamic. It wasn't about animosity, but artistic evolution. This isn't a story of a fallout, but a lesson in how Scorsese follows the story above all else. In fact, any idea of a permanent rift is debunked by the fact that they continued to work together later in films like The Last Temptation of Christ and, most recently, The Irishman. The fiery initial partnership was over, but the respect remained. The role of the primary muse had simply been passed on. Our next story has been a piece of Hollywood lore for decades. Though it's one you should probably take with a grain of salt, we're talking about the one and only James Caan. In the mid-70s, Scorsese was the hottest director around, and Caan was the definition of movie star. Cool. A collaboration between them just made sense. The story goes that Scorsese, who treats his scripts like sacred texts, was in rehearsals with Caan for a potential project. Scorsese's process is all about preparation. By the time the cameras roll, he and his actors have explored every single beat of the script. James Caan, on the other hand, was famous for his improvisational flair and assertive style. He saw the script as more of a blueprint. According to the legend, Caan started changing his lines during rehearsal, adding his own flavor. For many directors, that would be a welcome choice. For Martin Scorsese, it was practically blasphemy, and in Scorsese's world, every word is there for a reason. To change a line is to tell the composer you know the music better than he does. The confrontation that supposedly followed was a clash of 2 totally different philosophies. Caan, arguing for creative freedom, and Scorsese demanding that the actor's job is to interpret the material, not rewrite it. The project fell apart, and the dream team-up never happened. Now, it's important to remember this is an unsubstantiated story, but whether it happened exactly like that or not, it speaks volumes about Scorsese's most rigid rule: don't touch the script. By the early 90s, Julia Roberts was more than a star. She was a global phenomenon. After Pretty Woman, she was the most bankable actress on the planet. At the same time, Scorsese was tackling The Age of Innocence, a sophisticated period drama about New York's high society. To bring this world to life, he needed actors willing to completely submit to the stifling authenticity of the era. For the key role of Mae Wendland, Julia Roberts was reportedly considered. A role in a Scorsese film could have given her serious, critical cred, and her star power could have brought a huge audience to a period drama. but the whole thing supposedly fell apart over a piece of wardrobe, a corset. Scorsese insisted that his actresses were period-accurate corsets. This wasn't just for looks, it was central to his entire method. He believed the physical restriction of the garment would inform the performance. That feeling physically constrained would translate to the characters' emotionally stifled lives. According to the widely circulated rumor, Julia Roberts wasn't having it. The idea of being tightly laced up for a long shoot was a non-starter. For Scorsese, this wasn't a negotiation. It was a red flag. It signaled that the actress wasn't willing to fully surrender to the character. His response was reportedly swift and final. He moved on. The role went to Winona Ryder, who embraced the physical demands of the part. This story, while unconfirmed, highlights the difference between a Hollywood star, whose comfort is often a priority, and a Scorsese actor, where the only priority is the director's vision. If you're finding these glimpses into Scorsese's process as fascinating as we are, do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. We unpack Hollywood history every week, and you don't want to miss what's next. Now, back to the list. So, Winona Ryder got the part in The Age of Innocence, but her experience shows what happens when an actor does agree to Scorsese's demanding terms. Ryder was a huge star, known for her modern, intuitive acting style. But for this film, Scorsese needed the exact opposite, a performance of intense stillness, where a lifetime of manipulation is hidden behind a polite smile. The shoot became a grueling process for Ryder. Scorsese, a man of incredible energy, would act out scenes himself, showing her the precise turn of the head or rhythm of speech he wanted. He pushed her relentlessly to strip away her natural instincts and find the cold, artificial core of Mae West. For Ryder, it was an agonizing experience. She has since spoken about how challenging the process was, often leaving her drained and in tears, feeling she couldn't give him the impossibly specific thing he was looking for. It wasn't that he was angry, it was just a relentless, intellectual pursuit of the perfect take. From Scorsese's point of view, he was pushing a brilliant actress beyond her comfort zone to help her achieve greatness. And it worked. Ryder's performance is a chilling masterpiece and earned her an Oscar nomination. But while both she and Scorsese have expressed mutual respect over the years, the collaboration was never repeated. It's a perfect example of a professional relationship that wasn't destroyed by a fight, but was likely exhausted by the sheer intensity of the creative journey. Our final story comes from the set of the 2006 masterpiece, The Departed, and it's a legendary clash with a surprising ending. Mark Wahlberg was cast as Staff Sergeant Dignam, the foul-mouthed, aggressive cop who steals every scene he's in. It seemed like a perfect fit, but Scorsese wanted more than just raw anger. He wanted a coiled, calculating intelligence underneath the rage. The two reportedly clashed from the start. Wahlberg, trusting his instincts, played Dignam with a confrontational interface energy. Scorsese constantly pushed him to pull back and find the quiet menace. It was a classic Scorsese direction. Don't just act angry, show us why he's angry. This creative tug-of-war created real friction on set. Wahlberg has been open about the creative disagreements they had, but has always framed it with professional respect, saying Scorsese was pushing him to be better. Here's the craziest part. Wahlberg's resistance worked. The friction between his aggressive instincts and Scorsese's direction created a dynamic, unpredictable, and unforgettable performance. The result? Mark Wahlberg received the film's only acting nomination for an Academy Award. He fought the director, and in a way, they both won. However, that professional victory didn't seem to lead to a warm friendship. When Scorsese finally won his Best Director Oscar, Wahlberg's name was notably absent from his thank you speech. It's a unique case where creative conflict produced gold, even if it left the participants with no desire to get back in the ring together. So, what have we learned? The word hate is definitely too strong. What these stories really show is a portrait of an artist who is completely devoted to his vision. What might look like a personal feud is, from Scorsese's perspective, just the defense of the film. For more than 50 years, he has been on a quest for a specific kind of truth, and he expects total commitment from everyone on that journey. The actors on this list are all incredible performers. These stories aren't about a lack of talent. They're about a clash of philosophies, whether it was challenging the script, resisting the physical demands of a role, or just having a different creative instinct. Each conflict came from a deviation from Scorsese's exacting standards. His legendary loyalty to De Niro and DiCaprio comes from a shared understanding of this process. These 5 stories are a powerful reminder that on a Martin Scorsese set, the film is all that matters. Working with him requires a leap of faith. For those who take it, cinematic immortality can be the reward. For those who don't, the door simply closes. What do you think? Is Scorsese a demanding genius whose methods are justified by the incredible results, or an unyielding director who asks too much? Let us know your take in the comments below. And if you haven't already, please like this video and subscribe for more stories.